Hello and welcome to Web Relates. Today we're looking at the Choosing Beggars subreddit. Our first story is by Real Sailor Jim. How about no? I was outside mowing this morning when a lady stopped me to ask what sort of lawnmower I was using. I believe in being polite, so I turned off the mower and explained it was electric and battery powered. She asked questions about how long it ran off a charge, how long it took to recharge, if it was possible to buy additional batteries, and so on. Pretty much the usual questions I've fielded from neighbours in the past. After I got done explaining what I could, I really have no idea how long it takes to recharge the batteries since I just mow until they quit and then put them on the charger overnight to finish the rest of the yard the next day. One of the reasons I like my electric mower, its batteries quit before mine do. The lady nodded and announced that she needed this mower. I smiled and explained that she was in luck, that it used to be that you had to buy the silly thing online, but that there were several hardware stores in the area now that carried electric mowers. I explained how they were a little pricey, but well worth it, when she interrupted me and said, "No, I don't want to buy one. I need this mower." She closed her hand on the mower's handle and lightly pulled. I held on and laughed, thinking she was joking around. Then she pulled harder and said, "Let go, please." I politely explained that A, I was actively using the mower at the moment to mow my yard. B, I had no idea who she was or where she lived, so I wasn't going to loan her my mower, and C, that I was going to go back to mowing now, so have a nice day. Good luck on buying one of your own. She let go the instant I turned the mower back on, took a step back, and started saying, "Please, pretty please," repeatedly. I went back to mowing while she stood on the sidewalk, watching me walk back and forth. Whenever I came within earshot, she would hit me with a couple more pleases. I stopped looking at her and shifted to my side yard. I didn't see when she left, but she wasn't there when I next looked. So bizarre. Edit for common questions. The lady in question looked to be somewhere in her 30s to 40s, or maybe a well-preserved 50s, so I don't think she was a boomer. Besides, I'm technically a boomer and I've never seen her at any of the meetings. I don't have any outside cameras, but neither do any of my neighbours. It's not that kind of neighbourhood, in all honesty. On the other hand, I do have an impressive door and lock on my shed, and neighbours with large and excitable dogs on the other side of the fence from it, so I'm not terribly worried. She looked, acted, and dressed completely normal for the area. Lucid, reasonable, logical, sane. Well, until the entire, "I gotta have this particular mower for free," but that is. Otherwise, she could have been from any of the local churches in the area. Not that this is saying much, given my experiences with the local church ladies. Our next story is by Ayo, Choosy Cab Driver. Back in 2012, on a business trip to South Africa, we were told of this amazing steakhouse just on the outskirts of Johannesburg. Not ones to miss out on a great steak, we called, booked a table, and booked the taxi from the hotel. The taxi company gave a price for a return, which was a little high, but due to the distance and time, 8 p.m. table booking, if I remember correctly, we didn't think twice and agreed. It was a good 40-minute drive. The cab driver was very friendly and the journey went well. My boss and I got out and asked if we could be picked up in about 3 hours. To our surprise, he said it wouldn't be a problem, as he would wait outside for us. We again said we would be a while and don't plan on rushing. No problem for this guy, he'll wait. We ordered and our minds were of course on him waiting outside. My boss being who he is, let's get him something to eat. So he was offered a table in the restaurant and given a menu. Then one of the waiters comes over and says he doesn't want to eat here, but would like to look at the place over the road, to which the response was, he eats here or he goes back to his car. Eventually he ordered a plain steak and chips. Seriously, who, apart from vegans, does not like steak and chips? We let it go and carried on with the evening. He finishes up and goes back to his car. We pay and get in the taxi. Not a lot is said, and we were both quite pissed. We get to the hotel, and my boss hands over the cash, and a tip. A generous one, too. He quickly spins around. This is not enough. And we remind him that was the agreed price, plus a tip, plus a free dinner. My boss then asks for the tip back, and is of course refused, and we are asked to leave the car. Next day, checking the receipt, we then see not only had we paid for a meal for him, but the cheeky bastard had also ordered another meal which had been wrapped as a takeout. Sorry for the length. That's what he said. Okay, that guy was quite the butthole, but I found that story quite funny because I myself am a South African, and when we say taxi, we think of a very specific form of public transport, nothing you would call or book for. So that's just hilarious. Although, I would say that guy did act like a taxi driver would. Our next story is by Maleficent Can. A lifetime of being a choosing beggar does eventually get some delicious karma. Background. I'm a late 30s female Australian. This story pertains to a family friend called B. My father and B went to university together and subsequently played football and cricket together. They both married around the same time, and his daughters are both within 2 years of myself. So B, his wife, and 2 kids have been part of our family life since childhood. Despite moving interstate back in the late 90s, we always had a close family-friend relationship, which included family holidays together and frequent visits to each other's houses when I was growing up, no matter where we lived. Examples of B's behavior. B has been stingy his entire life. He will bring the worst bottle of wine to the party, drink all of your good wine, then have the audacity to take his crap wine home. Other times he has turned up to my parents' house to stay for the weekend, 7 to 8 hour drive between towns, for a footy match with the whole family, and eat and drink them out of home. He would of course host my parents in their town just as much. However, every time they, or we when I was younger, B would insist on going out for dinner, then to only forensically go over the bill. Nothing wrong at all with this. In fact, this sounds fair, except for the fact that when he arrives at my parents' house after a day where both my parents worked, all he would ask loudly on arrival, "What delicious food have you made for us tonight?" When my mum said, "No, I'm tired this time, we can just go out," or get some takeaway, and he had a mini tantrum. There was never a time that he was told to expect a hot meal, so no idea where that entitlement came from. My mother isn't even a very good cook. B's karma, the prelude. So B and his wife went on a trip to Bali with another couple. The male in this third couple is a mutual friend of Dad and B from uni and sports also. B decides that the accommodation that everyone else had was too expensive, so he booked the cheapest dive, joking that he doesn't need to pay for a decent hotel, as he can get in with the other two couples' keys. They didn't let that happen after the second day, when he was racking up all of his drinks to their respective rooms. He even chewed through the prepaid $100 data that Mum had bought and stupidly gave him the password for her hotspot. She keeps it on for her tablet and Dad's phone. B said it was an emergency. He used it all in one night and claimed he had no idea how. He had IT in his government background and was not at all an idiot to data use. Anyway, rinse and repeat the next day with the other couple, so he had been cut off from the others for any more freeloading. They won't let him sneak into the resort anymore, so the next day he needs a new activity to fill the day. B's karma, the sweet, sweet revenge. B is unable to join the others drinking and getting hotel massages the next day, after the morning activities he participated in, the ones he thought were value for money anyway. He decided to go to a rub and tug. If you don't know what that means, Google it. In Aus, we like to call it happy endings. In true tight-butt fashion, B took to the operator with the cheapest rates, by maybe $2 Australian. Whilst he is in there, they take his wallet and proceed to rack up a 23,000 Australian dollar credit card bill. He has no idea and goes back as he was too stingy to even put international roaming for phone calls, let alone data. The group go to dinner and his card is declined. They all laugh and think it is just him being him, trying to use an old card because he isn't and has never been poor. They tell him his card has been declined multiple times and hand over the restaurant phone for him to call the bank. He is informed of the jet skis, scooters, and other gear that was purchased, and that his 20k credit limit was exceeded by 3k. Anyway, he goes back and uses the restaurant Wi-Fi and transfers some cash quietly, so there weren't any alarms raised. B was rather quiet, and they thought he was sulking about being excluded from the hotel. His wife was still let in under the radar, as it wasn't her fault B refused to pay the hotel. And B's wife had been undergoing chemo before the trip, so the others insisted that she be pampered, and they showered her with all the hotel services legitimately. My mum refuses to scam anyone or anywhere to the point she will pay back on behalf of others if she can, when people are scammed and can't afford it. B, the boy who cried wolf. B decides to stay at the bar as he needed the free Wi-Fi to sort out a couple of small financial things, nothing serious, and that he will meet his wife back at their crappy accommodation. It was on the way for the other 4 to walk her there. Anyway, B ends up in the hotel lobby of where my parents and other couples are demanding he could get lift access to the floor my parents were on, as he needed internet and a phone. Mum and Dad were given a message along the lines of, "Some guy I've seen you with said, 'Come downstairs, he needs your internet and phone.'" Whatever the exact words were, it wasn't even close to eliciting any sympathy response to B, so they ignored it. He ended up at a bar with free Wi-Fi just to email my dad to tell him what had happened, and if he could let him in to use their phone and internet. It is after 1 a.m. Why didn't he just go buy a bloody SIM card? He still had a perfectly fine debit card. He just refused to pay for internet or phone use overseas, even when scammed $20,000. FYI, being a credit card, he got the dollars within a month, which is expected in our country anyway. Shame, it sounds like he deserves a bit of that strain. It's a pity the wife has to deal with it too, though. Okay everyone, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment and subscribe. And then I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers!